Well, Don't Breathe is it's a horror thriller, but you'll decide if it's more of a thriller or a horror movie. But and that's kind of what it's unique about it. That it has elements of both things, and it's different from most horror movies these days, which, just like Evil Dead and a lot of the big horror movies these days usually are supernatural stories, but we want to tell something that wasn't supernatural, that was in the real world. I think there's enough scary things in the real world. We don't need to come up with fake ghosts. So basically it's about these 3 kids in Detroit that they bring to the house of this guy, this blind guy, because they think he has some money that they want, and they're up to no good, the kids, but they will find out that part of the blind man is also up to no good. So it becomes this cat and mouse chase inside a house that becomes pretty scary and pretty intense.
So you have Stephen Lang as the blind war veteran, correct?
Yes.
Can you talk about the casting process for his character?
Well, he was definitely one of those names that as soon as someone suggested him, I was like, oh, he's the guy. Because we see him in Avatar, and we see him in other movies where he plays that military guy that's always strong and with a strong determination. And it was kind of interesting for me to take his side away and see what he could do. And it was just mind-blowing to see everything that he could do even without seeing. And that's kind of what the fun part of the movie is. Like, at first you think, because they're against a blind person, that's going to be easy. But then, very quickly, not just them, but the audience as well, start realizing, like, he might be blind, but his other senses, like he put them to good use. So when it comes to chase down these kids down the house, it's incredible, all the situations and things that you will experience in the movie.
And Steven has a very physical presence on screen. Does that still translate when he's blind, or is it a very different type of performance by Steven?
It's still, like, at first I think in the movie, and that is something that just him can do, I think. It's just the fact that when you see him for the first time, you kind of see a 65-year-old man that is just living by himself, a war veteran, and kind of a shut-in, and you kind of feel pity for him that they're going to take his money. And he looks frail and weak, but as soon as he turns it on, like, he's a beast. And that's what he does, which is, I think, it's the only actor these days in Hollywood that really can do that. Like, you can look at him under certain light, and you feel like, just an old man, and then suddenly you're running for your life. And that's what he does, and I think it's fantastic.
Can you tell us about the 3 thieves who are breaking into his house?
Of course, it's basically it's Detroit, so it's not that they're thieves. It's really like 3 kids that are desperate to really get out of the reality they live in, and they come from very bad neighborhoods and very bad homes, and they just want to make enough money to really break out of town and leave Detroit behind, at least that part of Detroit they live in. And basically, each one of them have their own reasons. Particularly Rocky, who's played by Jane Levy, she has made a promise to her young sister that she's going to take her out of that home, and in order to do that, she needs to get that money. And it is just a money that feels it's too good to be true. It's almost too easy. It's just like stealing that money from a blind person. It seems like stealing candy from a kid, right? Mm-hmm. But it won't be that easy.
So since this movie's a little bit more grounded than, say, Evil Dead, what were some of the challenges of keeping it based in reality?
Well, I mean, it's strange because though it is 100% based on reality, and even inspired in some real events and some levels, it does this strange thing that because he's blind, it just throws the story to, at least for me, in the writing and in directing the movie, like you find all the time that it creates situations that are pretty unique, because when you have a hunter that is blind, it just you will encounter moments that are just unique to the story. And there's one in particular in the movie where obviously all the lights of the house go dark, and suddenly they're definitely the ones that are at disadvantage because he never needed the light, right? So when that chase continues in the darkness, the whole movie is turned around. But it's definitely like to the question of the supernatural. It's still, in a way, for the blind man, it is almost like a ghost movie because he knows there's people in his house. You cannot see them. He knows they're there, and he's pointing his gun to an empty room where there might not be someone threatening him, right? So it has that kind of strange thing that it does not supernatural. It feels like part of a ghost movie in some points.
Were there any moments that really surprised you during the creation process or even in the post-production that moment when you knew for a fact that everything was locked in and you just felt super comfortable with?
that moment never comes when a filmmaker is making a film. I think it happens once the movie comes out and you have an audience. But there's one particular scene in the movie where, like I was saying, where all the lights goes dark. And you have a chase in a basement where you don't see anything. Well, the audience do see, and that was one of those leap of faith for me and everybody involved in the movie, because that was never done before without having a character that had a camera or something. So we've seen Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lamb, like hunting Clarice in the cellar, but he had goggles and there was all this device of night vision device. But we didn't want to do any of that, so we really took a leap of faith and said, like, the audience by this point knows, I guess, and I hope they know that that's the way darkness looks. So we create a particular look for the darkness without having any of the characters holding a device, which create a scene that I think is pretty unique and really in cinema it's never been done before. And that usually when you make those choices, you're really crossing your fingers and hoping that it's going to work. And we've shown it to an audience already, and it worked great. And I'm so happy that worked. Like I said, you never know until you show it to the audience.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with us. We're really looking forward to the movie, and audiences can see it next month. What's the release date for this? This is August
26th.
Perfect. August 26th. Make sure you check out Don't Breathe. Stay tuned for more exclusive coverage at ComicsOnline.com.
Builders, they're going off like gamma bombs. Switch your internet browser to ComicsOnline.com.